trip to paradise.
Are you ready? Okay, let's do it.
Welcome to another round of the Alpha Touring Challenge in Alabama. We're here for round 9 at Barber Motorsports Park, IndyCar. It's a staple of that schedule. They typically come here in May. We're showing up a little earlier than that. It's a bit chilly. It is going to be a low grip affair. It'll be interesting to see how the drivers handle it. And speaking of the drivers, what is that starting grid going to look like? It's a sprint challenge, which means that they have qualified solo and have a 20-minute race and then a 30-minute race ahead of them. And these are the conditions for that race today. It will be cloudy for most of the day, so the track will be staying cool down there. And the grid for today's event starts with who else? Our championship leader, Michael Polasek. He sits on pole alongside Logan McKenzie, his championship rival, but he's got 4/10 on him. Then you have Micah Hendricks, Gonzalo Fabi, Matthew Mayer, Francois Schink, Raymond Tu, Dan McFarland, David Bauer, and John Lazon. Then Zepka and your Delta pole sitter, Evan Clavijo, in 12th. That is a great qualifying performance for him. He sits 6 spots above Delta Championship leader Nate Kerr. Nate Kerr's closest rival at this moment, JB DeJay, starts just alongside him in 19th. Further down the order, Lucas Lodato returns. Fuada Rijla starts 21st overall. Thomas, Akers, Gilbert, Warfield, Clark, and Honegger are all finishing up your top 30. There are a total of 35 cars on the grid, 36, excuse me, with Aaron Law and Damon Mitchell rounding out that back row here at Barber. And just over 30 seconds before we go green here today, Polasek holds a very slim lead in the overall Alpha Championship right now. McKenzie, he sits just within striking distance. Today's sprint challenge with an invert gives him a chance to come back at Michael. With 2 races to go after this, both being endurance challenges, he'll need to maximize the points damage here. We have just over 5 seconds to go before we get the red lights. Here we go. From Barber, Polasek is about to lead us off. And they're away at Barber. Polasek leads them off, and McKenzie alongside. Hendricks gets a bad start behind them. Everyone having to swerve to avoid, and it looks like they have managed to do so. Up into turn 2 now. A couple cars getting loose there. That's Lazan. And now a car further back getting fully sideways. Zachary Bowman. I think for the most part, everyone has managed to avoid him. Now, coming down the backstretch, Schink and Mayer going at it. Polasek will lead the field into the hairpin for the first time. Bobby separating from Mayer and Schink, and then 2 and Dan McFarlane are stacked up behind. Right now, Evan Clavijo still holding on to that Delta lead. He's got Hendricks ahead of him, and Matthew Zepka behind. Now the field into the corkscrew. This is where we're going to see some action today. And look at how much they've got to cut over that curb. That is the fast line, getting that much grass. And now, a couple guys getting into it there. That is Lucas Lodato, the Slug, Ethan Bass. Looking at the Delta leader, Clavijo, as they come through the S's. High-speed stuff here. And they're going to have to work together to make sure no one gets clipped and thrown off track through that section. Schink has to yield to Mayer through the final part of the S's and into the final sector. This big sweeping penultimate corner here just before the final left-hander. We're going to see a lot of interesting moves through. 3 cars off the track in the background. That's the Slug. There was another car there. I think it was Mark Darnell. And then Lucas Lodato. And there goes Logan Warfield going wide to avoid. Not sure exactly what happened there, but they all went and came together just before the final corner. We saw them flying off track in the background. Dan McFarlane has managed to clear Raymond 2 here at the start of the race, and he is free to go chase down Francois Schink and his teammate Matthew Mayer. And then Micah Hendricks just behind, trying to get involved in this, running in that shiny new Croc Promotions Honda. He's got David Bauer on his left side, and they are not going to be yielding down to the corkscrew. Will Bauer look for a way out on the left side? No, he's going to keep the nose in. He's going to force them to go through there too wide over the curb. They've done it beautifully, and Bauer actually has a nose ahead for a moment, and they are still too wide, and I think Hendricks, he will finally have to yield that one. Further back in the field, Lodato and Warfield. They're going side by side through there. And I think actually Lodato doesn't have damage. Does Nate Kerr have damage? No, I do think it was Lodato that was involved in that incident. Just ahead, a couple cars going a little wide. Some shuffling here. Look at how many cars are trying to place themselves as they come through the S's. Lodato there, you saw him lose out over the curb. Clark goes through on him. And just behind, that's Rick Meyer, Jason Lynn, and championship leader Nate Kerr trying to get the nose in. Jason Lynn goes down pit road. He may have jumped the start, and a car going wide further back. That is Kevin Johnson. JB DeJay running 3rd in the Delta class, just ahead of Chris McDonald, trying to stay on that Delta podium. Fuada Rijla is a bit in the middle of nowhere there because Evan Clavijo has a 3-second gap on him. And that gap is not shrinking. Clavijo has a lot of pace. His qualifying performance was excellent. So it's not a surprise to see him sitting up in the top 10 on merit with the other Alpha drivers. Kurt Smith sitting behind that duo of Chris McDonald and JB DJ that I was talking about earlier. We'll go on board with him as they head down to the corkscrew. Oh, he's trying to look, just have a nose up in there. It's really difficult to pass at this track. Now that everyone has settled down, the passes you're going to see are probably going to have to be a little gutsy. Michael Polasek is pulling ahead of his championship rival. Very important stuff for him here, as he has now created a 1 second gap between himself and McKenzie. Chris McDonald slotting back in behind DJ. And that is a pretty nice group of cars there. Another big group of cars is this one up front. David Bauer is on pit road. Maybe he jumped the start. He is having to serve a drive-through penalty. There are no pit stops in this race, so that is unfortunate for him. So for Clavijo, leading the Delta class by about 3.3 seconds now, carving a little gap open for himself. He's got Hendricks ahead and Zepka behind, and I think both those gaps are widening. David Thomas really close to the back of Kurt Smith here as they come down to the hairpin. Will he look for a move on the Honda into the braking zone? No, he stays on the racing line, glued to it. Now David Bauer has come out of the pits and is making a move on the 513 of Nate Kerr. Kerr going wide, and Bauer goes through as he begins his recovery. After the drive-through, Michael Polasek goes purple in all sectors on the last lap, setting the pace 1.1 ahead of McKenzie. Matthew Mayer has extended a small gap over Francois Schink. You see him going wide there, dragging some grass back onto the circuit. He switched to the Veloster this week. Be interesting to see how that plays out for him. So far, it's going well. Good qualifying. He's gained a spot in the race. Sits just outside the podium places. And he's trying to keep up with Fabi here, but Fabi is slowly opening that gap up, although he had a slow lap last time around the circuit. John Lazon is on the back of Matt Zepka now. He'll be looking to get around Zepka. I think he's got a little bit of pace on him. Just ended up behind him after the start of the race. Now, they actually started alongside each other, I believe. Zepka started in 11th and Lazon in 10th, so they've flipped since then. Looking at the back of the field, this is Aaron Law going for a move on Zachary Bowman, who did get going again after the initial spin. Oh, a little contact between the 38 and the 654, but they continue down the straightaway to the hairpin. And Law is going to enter the braking zone well ahead. So we look back here, Bauer working his way around Spencer Clark now, giving us some action early in this race. And then just ahead, you see Yongsi Lin is going around Matt Zepka. Zepka has also let Lazon through, so I think he picked up a slowdown somewhere, and he has now dropped 2 spots. And he goes to 11th. Lynn is running just outside the top 10 with that. Schink is now about to come under pressure from Mayer's teammate McFarlane here. McFarlane picked up his first career victory at this track, so has a very lovely history with it, and would love to at least get around Schink to pop into the top 5 for today's race. Now look at this, Spencer Clark off the final corner with Nate Kerr coming alongside him, and Logan Warfield racing ahead. Kerr into turn 1, goes for the dive. Oh, Clark's gonna get a little sideways there. Manages to gather it back up though. And then further behind, Gareth McAllister and Aaron Law battling, and McAllister going wide. And he's going to come back on track and be able to stay ahead of Law. Nate Kerr and Logan Warfield going at it again. Now into the hairpin. Warfield's on the inside. Under the brakes. Kerr goes a bit deep. Lodato trying to follow this mess through. Now he sits to the left side of Clark. Clark goes really wide there as they come together on the straight. Clark just behind going into the corkscrew, but he does stay in it. So 2 wide through the corkscrew. Clark a little slow through the last part of it, and out of it, Lodato is going to have a pace advantage, and he will slot ahead as they run through the S's. Looking at Kurt Smith entering that long penultimate corner now. The order of this group has not changed really since the start of the race. It's been DeJay, McDonald, Smith, that's David Thomas, and now approaching the back of this group is the Slug and Mark Darnell. Warfield and Kerr going at it again. Kerr on the outside of the final corner. Tough to go through too wide through there, because what they're really doing is exposing themselves to the car behind, but Lodato thinks better of it and backs out. And down to turn 1, he backs all the way out. He says, I'll go ahead and let my teammate through. But now Warfield goes wide. He's on the bumpy stuff, and he manages to keep it together and rejoin safely. But he's going to lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots just like that. And now McDonald just ahead in the hairpin. Maybe coming together with Kurt Smith, maybe get into a slide. But he goes wide and he loses 4 spots himself. Guys are getting a little elbows out further back in the field. Up front, Bobby still holds an advantage over Mayer, but it's not growing anymore. I'd say it's shrinking. So that's something he's got to worry about. McFarland hasn't managed to get past Schenk yet. Bauer going for a move on Lewis Gilbert through the S's. And oh my God, that was incredibly close. But they managed to make it work. Nigel Honegger is going to be fending off Damon Mitchell. Mitchell's gained 13 spots since the start of this race, starting on the back row of the field. And I see a car going off. Youngsie Lin went really wide. You see all the dirt he's depositing back onto the track. And now the Slug is having to come down pit road. That car looks pretty beat up. This is either an incident limit thing or just a meatball that he's having to serve. We look back up front to Schenk, still under pressure from McFarland. To the back straight they go. The weather has been quite nice so far in this race. It hasn't been as cloudy as we were expecting, and what little rain there was in the forecast has completely disappeared. And this group of 4 depositing even more gravel onto the track there. Looking back to Zachary Bowman, remember he was fully sideways after turn 1 on lap 1. Now here he is battling for 26th with Spencer Clark, heading to the corkscrew. I think he's going to have to let Clark have that one, and he does. So the battle for 10th, 11th. Matt Zepka has Fuad Al-Rijla on his tail. Al-Rijla has gained 8 spots since the start of this race, and he is P2 in the Delta class. Would be P1 if not for Evan Clavijo being 5 seconds up the road in 9th. And there hasn't been a whole lot of carnage in the top 10 this race. Clavijo is there on some very good pace. Now he goes a bit wide, entering turn 2. It's going to open the door for John Lazan. Lazan trying to get his car whatever side draft he can get it. But he's not going to have it into the hairpin, but he goes under braking, stick it on the outside. Clavijo is pinned to the track. Can Lazan get a good run and do something into the corkscrew? I don't think so. He gets into the grass a little on exit, and he'll have to wait for another chance. Coming onto that back straight now is DeJay. He still has Kurt Smith at about the same distance behind him as he has for the entire race. And Thomas and Darnell behind. Darnell inherited that position after the Slug had to go into the pits. And then you have Damon Mitchell still working on the back of Nigel Honegger, on board with Mitchell. Oh, and he's gone a bit wide there. Has to collect it on the grass. He will not have a shot at Mitchell going down into the start of Sector 3. Everyone's settled down a little bit here. This is the closest battle on track right here. I see... oh, Lazan disappeared for a moment. Oh, Lazan has let Clavijo back through. He is having some kind of issue. He's lost a lot of time. I'm not sure if that was a mistake or some kind of mechanical issue going on. But he's now lost a good bit of time to Lin and Zepka and Alrijla behind. Now David Bauer has gotten up to the back of Damon Mitchell and Nigel Honegger. He's got... oh no, that's a lap down car behind him. So he's got no pressure behind. He's going to go for a good exit here. He really backed it up on entry there, but he's not close enough to really do anything with that. Just 5 minutes to go in the first sprint of the day. Michael Polasek is entering the final corner now, and he is just cooking. 4 seconds on Logan McKenzie. It's really no contest. He's going to come across the line with 5 minutes left, and it's his race to lose entirely. David Bauer got alongside Damon Mitchell while we were looking at the leader, and he slips ahead into 21st now. So he continues to recover a bit. And now I see Raymond 2 has gone off track, and Mike Hendricks is closing up to the back of him as a result. 2 going very wide out of turn number 2. Will Hendricks have a run on him down to the hairpin? Maybe not close enough. 2 goes for the defensive line. Hendricks says, I'll go ahead and at least try it, but nothing coming to that one. Not too surprising of an outcome. Now David Bauer out of turn 2. He's looking at Nigel Honegger for a top 20. Surely he'll try something in the hairpin here. Honegger gives him the left side, then the right side, then the left side. A little bit of movement, a little bit of contact. And Bauer does get ahead, but that was a bit dicey. Slightly late defense from Honegger, it has to be said. Now Mitchell alongside him there, and is going to force it too wide through the corkscrew. Love to see this. Honegger giving it his all, making sure Mitchell has as little track to work with as he can give him. And now as they go through the S's, oh, they come together. Mitchell gets sideways. Honegger gets ahead. Mitchell manages to save it. And the lapped car behind will go ahead and let them go through. I'm trying to figure out, that is Ethan Bass. Micah Hendricks got around Raymond 2 while we were watching that spectacle. So Hendricks up into 7th, still down 4 from where he started the race. And back to Damon Mitchell off the final corner. That whole incident has given David Bauer a nice cushion behind. He'll continue to chase up the field in these last couple of laps. Clavijo is once again under pressure from Lazan. He's recovered from whatever happened to him earlier, and now he's going to have one more shot at this 9th position before the race comes to a close. And down to the corkscrew. I'm sure he's not going to be really attempting anything there. Zepka's really close to the back of Lin. Same situation, but he definitely has a little bit of pace on him. Hendricks has not fully lost Raymond 2 either. 2's trying everything he can to just stay within striking distance here. Give him a chance in those last couple of laps. And it is the last couple of laps. These are 1.5-minute laps. Polasek just crossed the line with 2 minutes to go. So we have 2 laps to go as these guys come across the line. Up ahead, the battle for 3rd does not look any different. Fabi still holding that half-second advantage that he has had over Mayer for pretty much the whole race. Mayer's just not been able to make inroads. Now Dan McFarland is very close to Francois Schink, closer than he has been, and maybe not close enough to make a move on this lap. stay back there for the moment. David Bauer has closed up to the back of the T0 Racing Elantra, piloted by Cooper Akers. The number 29 has got a handful to deal with behind. He's going to stay to the right, and Bauer is not going to take that as they head into the hairpin. Behind, you have Delta Championship leader Nate Kerr and Lewis Gilbert. Oh, they come together a little bit. Just a small, almost you call that a miscommunication of where the car is intended to go. Nigel Honegger under more pressure from Damon Mitchell still, but he keeps his cool into the corkscrew, and Mitchell still cannot find a way around. Michael Polasek into turn one. He gets the white flag. Logan McKenzie is over 5 seconds behind him in what is just a 20-minute race. A stellar performance from the defending champion thus far. He will be extending his Slim Championship lead with this one. Back to Bauer, putting Akers under a lot of pressure as they come to get the white flag. Looking all the way outside, then cutting back in. He's going to try and get a really good attack angle on the final corner. And now we hit the 20-minute mark. Across the line they go. Gilbert and Clark are both on pit road, serving what I assume are penalties and coming down basically together. Polasek had a purple sector 3 on that last lap. Just imperious pace. He continues to show why he is the cream of the crop, the class of the field. Michael Polasek this season started a little shaky for him, but since then, since about the halfway point, he's got his feet under him. The double win at Sebring led into a 3rd win in a row at Long Beach, and now into the final corner, it will be 4 in a row for Michael Polasek to get himself back into the championship fight and extending his championship lead. The one is across the line. He wins at Barber Motorsport Park. Logan McKenzie will come across P2, and Bobby finishes his defense, brings home that final podium spot. Mayer, Shake, McFarland all in quick succession. Then Hendricks and 2 will come across the line. And Evan Clavijo, he has fended off John Lazan. He's fended off his fellow Delta drivers. And across the line, the 187 wins at Barber. A stellar performance from him. And more across the line now. Darnell coming across just behind Smith. Smith Smith had to I think Smith was serving a slowdown there at the very end. It allowed DeJay and McDonald back through, so DeJay takes the final Delta podium spot. Michael Polasek, for him, this is just what he needed. Now he just has to nail the second race, the invert, and that championship, he'll have one hand on that championship trophy. Logan McKenzie, he's going to have to go all out to keep Polasek behind him in this second race. We have one race down, 1 to go. We'll be right back here at Barber Motorsport Park. "20 minutes of racing down here at Barber Motorsport Park. 30 minutes to go. It'll be a straight sprint to the line. The drivers will not be making any sort of pit stops. We are looking at the starting grid. John Lazan finished 10th, so he's starting 3rd. Your leader, that's going to be Matt Zepka with Yongsi Lin alongside him on the front row, ready for the second race of the day here at Barber Motorsport Park. We are just over 5 seconds away from the red lights. And we are green. Matt Zepka will lead them off here at Barber. And they're already going 3 wide behind. Lynn keeps the nose in there. Will he go for the lead immediately here at Barber? Here they come through turn 2. Oh, and Gareth McAllister is off. Contact with Ethan Bass. Lynn in the lead. Lazon trying to find space to take all of his momentum to the right side. Zepka goes. Lazon has to slot in behind. Evan Clavijo under intense pressure here from Hendricks from 2. Through the hairpin they all go. Oh, more cars going off there. One of the T0 drivers went wide. Clavijo holding Hendricks in 2 back. These guys come through the corkscrew. 2 wide for P2. Lazon slots in behind. 2 and Hendricks go through 2 wide. McKenzie on the outside of Bobby there. That is close racing because Polasek right on the back of McKenzie there. If he gets ahead of him, the championship picture becomes much more difficult for McKenzie. Oh, and I saw a car getting sideways. That's Raymond too. He gets pushed out wide. Going to the left. Hendricks is going to go around him. He's going to have to slot in ahead of Dan McFarland. He may get crossed over here. McFarland's going to try and get the nose in as best he can. Through the final corner they go. Still a little wiggle from the 23. Youngsi Lin will lead the first lap. I believe that is his first career-led lap. McFarland and Fabi almost come together off the corner. And now through turn 1, Fabi and Mayer come together a little bit there. McKenzie looking for the outside on Mayer. Polasek looking for the inside on McKenzie. It's non-stop battling, non-stop racing so far in this one. Youngsi Lin holds the lead. Zepka P2, Lazon P3, and Evan Clavijo is in the Delta lead in P4 overall. The last time a Delta driver finished on the podium was Spencer Clark back in New Hampshire, season 11, I think. Mayer and McKenzie going side by side into the corkscrew. They are not going to give this up, either one of them. Mayer edges ahead. McKenzie is going to keep the nose in though. So 2 wide they go, and 3 wide actually, because here comes Michael Polasek around the outside and into the S's. McKenzie ekes ahead. Polasek goes through as well. Mayer going a bit off track. He's not going to give it up yet. Here comes Fuad Al-Rizla from the right side. He makes it 3 wide. And Fuad just can't get around Polasek, but Polasek can get around Mayer. And now David Thomas takes advantage of that and goes through on Fuad, or does he? The SCRG driver gets to do a bit of a slide defending his position. But he holds on to it for the lead. Youngsi Lin and John Lazon into turn 1. Oh, Lazon couldn't keep the nose in. Lin closed down on him. That was a risky play. Shink on the inside of Clavijo here for P3. Actually, this is Clavijo coming back at these podium sitters. Or no, we've lost somebody. Matt Zepka has disappeared from the top 3. Slipped behind McKenzie now. Now into the hairpin. Lin and Lazon come together. Clavijo and Shink going at it. Oh, and he's got all kinds of problems, Youngsi Lin. Into the corkscrew. We're about to go for the lead. Lin stays ahead. Clavijo gets ahead of Francois Shink. He gets into the back of Lazon. They're all going to stack up here. And what happened to Polasek? Polasek actually slipped behind Zepka, so he's lost some time on the group. We're looking at your Delta and Alpha leaders here. It's very convenient. The entire top 7 separated by just over 1 second. And now Shink's going to go back through on Clavijo as they work their way through the S's. A crafty move by the veteran, but he goes wide. He goes wide onto the grass, and Clavijo gets back by. But the over-under from the 18, and now he's back ahead. And Hendricks has decided, all right, I'm done watching you play leapfrog. It's my turn. Around the outside of the 187 goes the 473. And now into turn 1, it'll be Raymond 2 putting Clavijo under pressure. Clavijo knows he's got the Delta lead. He wants to protect as many of these positions as possible without getting into a major incident here. Delta Championship leader Nate Kerr going into turn 1 with Mitchell and Slug close behind. He's a bit off the Delta lead in this race, but his position all important for the championship. 2 under some pressure from Clavijo, McFarland. Bobby going for the move on McFarland here. Oh, Clavijo got a bit wide into a slide. There goes McFarland and Bobby on him. And now McKenzie Will he have the... Well, Bobby hasn't even cleared him yet. Will McKenzie have a run? And, yo, he is going to get the nose in there. He got into a little bit of a slide. They go too wide. McKenzie goes deep on the brakes, and I think he's going to get around Clavijo as well. So Clavijo goes back to 9th. Lynn and Lazon into the S's for first place. They managed to do it too wide. A little bit of contact. Shink looking for a gap, looking for somewhere to go. He looks to the left of Lazon. Lazon under pressure. A little hip check. All the fighting for the lead happening just behind Lynn. Shink going a little off track again, but he's trying to keep the position. Hendricks is right there. Raymond 2 going off in the background, letting a few drivers through, including Logan McKenzie, Bobby, McFarland. Shink just can't get the job done on Lazon, and now he's going to be under immense pressure from Micah Hendricks. And into turn 1, lets him go, goes to the crossover, into turn 2 around the outside, a little bit of contact, and now he'll be under pressure from Dan McFarland. And this is how this happens. You get thrown from one side of the track to the other. You're always on the bad side of the track, and now under pressure, it's not going to be Shink, it's going to be McFarland. Bobby moves to the left side of the track, but he can't find an opening. Clavijo is now slipped to just 1 second ahead of Fuado Rijla, so the battle for the Delta lead very much on all of a sudden. Michael Polasek is still stuck behind Matt Zepka. He's got Zepka and 2 in between him and McKenzie. Right now, as things stand, the championship would be very close. I think Polasek would still be in the lead. Looking back at JB DeJay, looping around Kurt Smith, who went a bit deep in the corkscrew, and that's for 4th in class. You have David Bauer working through the field there with Yanyi Chang. Oh, look at this, McFarland going through on Sheik, a big wiggle, and now Bobby's going to take advantage of it and do the same. And here comes Logan McKenzie trying to follow those 2 through. I think he's going to get stuck behind the 18, though, and that is going to help Polasek out. Polasek has gotten around. Matthew Zepka, Kurt Smith, and DeJay going into the penultimate corner. Smith going wide, really wide, but he had the position there. Nothing DeJay could really do about it. Youngsie Lin in the fight of his life, and he's still got over 20 minutes left. He went from having never led an ATC race to having led every lap in the first 8 minutes of this one. He stays in the middle of the track, and that gives Hendricks a window to attack Lazon. He sticks the Honda in there with a little wiggle, but he manages to bring it to a stop. Not able to do anything, though. McKenzie on the left side of Shink here. This is the first real chance he's had at Shink. A big wiggle into the corkscrew. Oh, and a big contact there. And any damage to those cars? None to Shink, none to McKenzie, to Polasek. They all got away with it looks like. On board with Polasek here. Look at what he's having to do. Oh, he goes really wide. I'm not sure if there's a slowdown out there, but not ideal. He's got all kinds of grass and gravel on the tires now. Oh, and now that was just Hendricks popping out of existence there, but he has slipped a little closer to McFarland. And now Lazon is going to have another shot at Youngsie Lin. It's just a 2/10 gap. Clear. So far, what it looks like is a lot of people back there have the pace, but they can't find a way around the 36. The 36 is driving this beautifully thus far. Raymond 2 went wide a little in turn 1, backed Polasek, Zepka, and Mayer up. Mayer looking at the back of this. He may be looking for a move here, along with Michael Polasek. Polasek on the right side of the track to Raymond 2. This is an important move for him to get done. He's got to squeeze that second breakfast driver down onto the track, but I don't think he was able to do it. He'll get a little side draft here, though. Into the corkscrew. He may have this. He lunges in deep. He wants it. He takes it. That is 8th place for Polasek. Lazon under more pressure from Hendricks. The pendulum has swung back to him being on the defense. Matthew Mayer was close to Shink. Forced him off his line. He goes a bit wide. We've seen people do that all day today. 1/3 of the way through this feature race. Oh, and that was Raymond 2 off track again in the same spot, it looked like, or a similar spot. Zepka and Mayer go through. Now Clavijo's going to have another shot at it. Guado Rijla is right there thinking, well, if you guys could slow Clavijo down a little more, that would be great. And now John Lazon dropping down the order, maybe having some kind of issue. Oh, he's got McKenzie going around him on the outside. And now he goes all the way down to 7th place. So I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe the same issue that he was having in the first race. That changes the lead order a little bit. Lazon had plenty of chances at Lynn. Now it's Hendrick's turn. And don't count out Dan McFarland. Remember, first career win at this track, and technically was the most recent winner before Polasek won just in the first race today. He's had pace. He's right there. If Hendricks and Lynn start to fight, see if he can take advantage of it. Clavijo still keeping a very marginal lead on Guado Rijla. It's a half-second advantage right now. 18 minutes to go. Now Rijla running in P2. This has been a stellar performance for him so far today. When you look at this season's schedule, you look at the performances that Rijla has had, there's one big thing missing from those accolades, and that is that's a win. He does not have a win yet this season. Well, he's got a win right in front of him, 1 second ahead. Back to the leaders. McFarland under a little bit of pressure from Fabi into turn 1, but Fabi's not going to be able to do anything with it. Schenk has still been able to keep... Oh, Schenk! Big contact! And I was just about to say he's managed to keep McKenzie behind him, but now McKenzie's going to go around the outside. A little bit more contact. Polasek gets into the back of Lazon and gets slowed down. Lazon and Schenk will go too wide down to the hairpin, and more shuffling takes place just off of one small incident. Lazon going to try and beat him on the brakes. Schenk will hold that spot. So in the end, Schenk managed to only lose one position there. Quick thinking from McKenzie to go around the outside and just took that position. Lynn is still keeping Hendricks back there. Hendricks hasn't really had a great shot at him yet. McFarland gaining the back of Hendricks as they stack up through the corkscrew. And now the corkscrew. There come Clavijo and Al Rijla. They were former teammates on SCRG. Clavijo got the call up to SRG this season, so they are sort of sister teammates. So they know each other well. Now fighting for the lead at Barber. If Clavijo were to win, he has quite a few wins this season. That would be his 4th on the season. Back up front, Micah Hendricks letting people by. I think he may have had a slowdown, and McKenzie gets all the way up to him. Oh, a little bit of contact. McKenzie goes wide over the rough stuff. Schenk's going to try and get the nose in. They all stack up again. McKenzie manages to keep everyone behind. Hendricks manages to serve the slowdown without losing the spot to the 04. Now Fabi inherits the podium spot. That puts Dan McFarland in the prime position. Now Lazon has had a chance. Hendricks has had a chance. McFarland now sits in P2. Mayer out of the hairpin. He's got Zepka on his right side. Will he look for a side draft? I don't think there's going to be anything he can do going into the corkscrew. Well, he got the nose in. I'm surprised he was able to get the nose in there. They're going to come together. Zepka on a shallow line. And Raymond 2 with this happening right in front of him. They're going to go through the S's side by side. Oh, and Zepka's going to have to yield, and he lets both cars through. And now under pressure from Evan Clavijo, the Delta leader, is going to get slowed down a little bit. And that is exactly what Al Rijla wants. Now into the second to last corner. Lynn holding a tight line here to go full defense. If you don't have the pace, then you have to take these lines to keep the cars behind. And what that is doing is keeping the lead pack completely stuck together. The top 6 only separated by 2 seconds across all of them. Looking back to Michael Polasek and John Lazon, this is interesting. Lazon has lost a lot of time to the cars ahead, and he's dragged Polasek back with him. Now Polasek looking to the left to make this move, but he is now over a second and a half off of Francois Schink, and he has got to finish this move as well. He has done it. Yes, 1.8 seconds to Schink ahead. McFarlane ekes alongside Lynn into the corkscrew, but he does not stay alongside. He decides, I think the decision making there may have been, let me make sure I stay ahead of Gonzalo, when the chances of me getting around, are low. So this has just kind of become a matter of, well, we got to find a way around this guy. Passing's so difficult here. If you're in the lead, you don't have to worry about losing ground to anyone ahead, so you can really park it on some of these corners, and Lynn is doing just that. Now through the penultimate corner, McFarlane is very close. He looks right. Thinks better of it. It's difficult to get that dive on someone accomplished into turn 1 because it's so high speed. You're basically just stabbing the brakes and rolling through the corner, so there isn't a whole lot of overlap to gain under the brakes. That's why even though you see him getting really close to Lynn, he's just not making a move. Now the hairpin is different, and you see it right there with Hendricks saying, "Hello, Fabi. Goodbye, Fabi." And Gonzalo not happy with that one, and it's put him under pressure from Logan McKenzie. So they're going to come into the corkscrew. McKenzie's going to let him have it. They all stack up again there. So Hendricks has managed to worm his way back up onto the podium after having to serve that slowdown. Lynn still holds this lead with 12 minutes to go. Could we see a first-time winner in the Alpha Touring Challenge here today? It would be the second time, of course, in Barber's history that has happened, but it's the man who it happened to, McFarlane, who's trying to prevent it from happening a second time, and he's going to send it in the final corner. He looks for a move, and instead, what I think it's going to do is put him at risk from Micah Hendricks. Down the front straightaway, Hendricks is going to go straight into P2. And that's just, you've got to, when you are overtaking someone, you've got to be thinking an extra step ahead. And McFarlane was not thinking an extra step ahead there. He did not get Lynn off his line. He did not get far enough alongside. And that final corner, when you're off the racing line, you lose so much time going down the straightaway. Hendricks went by him, no problem. And now Bobby tried to put him under pressure. McKenzie under some pressure from Schink. And Polasek has pulled up to the back of this group. He has gained all that time back. And if he can get around Schink, he'll be right on the back of McKenzie and doing a good job of protecting his championship lead. Into the corkscrew, Schink is going to have to let him go. Polasek into P6. So Lynn gets a little breather on this lap. He'll be able to actually take a regular line through the final sector. Just over 10 minutes to go. Any one of these cars in the top 5, even really the top 8, could win this race depending on what happens. But at the same time, very difficult to overtake here. Now, Fuad Rijla, he has lost some ground on Evan Clavijo. It's a 1.5 second gap now. So that Delta lead, that Delta win, slowly slipping away from him. But for Clavijo, trying to bag the double win here at Barber, that would be his first double win of the season. His other 2 wins came during the first race at Phoenix and the special challenge, special endurance challenge at VIR. Up front, Hendricks is under some pressure from McFarlane, and this is exactly what Yongsi Lin wants to see. Here they come down to the hairpin. Hendricks has that inside line. He's going for the lead. 3 wide for the lead at Barber, and he's got it. He surprised Lynn. Lynn was so focused on, oh, well, he's battling McFarland. Hendricks said, well, I'm close enough. I might as well send it. And McFarland on the outside, he had nowhere to go with it. He couldn't go anywhere. He couldn't do anything to stop Hendricks from stealing the lead. Now he gets ahead of Lynn through the corkscrew. Bobby stays behind, and now the battle for the lead. Micah Hendricks, Dan McFarland, they are going to go at it. McKenzie gets alongside Gonzalo Fabi. Oh, and they come together there as they enter the S's, and he's not going to be able to go anywhere with that. Will Polasek come at him here? And no, he will not. He'll stay back. So Hendricks now slots into the lead of this race, and he has not won yet this season. This would be a very welcome sight to see him in victory lane for the first time, and shortly after switching from the Audi to the Honda. Going wide on that final corner. Everyone's going wide in that final corner. Will Fabi look for something on Lynn? He's not close enough. These two are going to get away, I think, if the rest of the field does not get around Lynn post-haste. Look at how close the entire top 10 is. The top 10 separated by just 3.5 seconds. And into the hairpin. It looks like there's going to be no movement on this lap. Now Fabi may look for something here with Lynn. Into the corkscrew. He's going to put the nose in and try and force him off his line. Can't get it done. Might as well give it a shot. Just under 8 minutes to go. Micah Hendricks looking for his first win here in Alabama. McFarland looking to make it 2 wins here at Barber. He's all over the back of Hendricks. If anything were to happen to McKenzie and Polasek in these last couple rounds, these are the 2 drivers that stand to benefit in the championship standings. And here they are, battling for the win. On board with McFarland. A shallow line through the final corner there, and you're going to see him lose ground to Hendricks. Hendricks going wide on exit, though, as well. McKenzie, oh, he's looking on the right side of Fabi, and Fabi is going to defend to the inside here. Fabi got a bad exit out of that final corner. McKenzie keeps the nose in through turn 2. This is for 4th place, and he's going to get it. Polasek gets in there as well, and Fabi's not going to be happy about that one. He slots in behind, and the little elbows out there. Polasek wanted to make sure that he could follow McKenzie through, and now Fabi's going to come back at Polasek. Oh, they come together a little bit. Polasek gets kicked wide, and now all of that work has been undone. That has huge championship implications. Now there are 4 cars between him and Logan McKenzie. Into the corkscrew, he manages to stay ahead of Raymond 2. You see Schenck promoted into 6th off that, Lazan into 7th. Hendricks still under heavy pressure. 6 minutes to go. It felt like nothing happened in the first race, and now everyone's lost their minds in this one. It's been nonstop action, flag to flag. They're not done yet. Lynn trying to hold on to his first podium. McKenzie lurks in the background. He's dropped Fabi. Fabi's a second back now after the incident with Polasek, so he has breathing room. That is bad news for Lynn. And Hendricks himself, he has a little bit of breathing room here. A half-second gap as he comes to take another lap here at Barber. Evan Clavijo has extended his Delta lead, but he's on the back of this lead group, so his progress is limited. But Al Ridgely is not any faster than them, so far it's looking good for Clavijo to bring home the double win. On board with Polasek as he comes down the back straight. He's looking to the left on Mayer. And under the brakes, Mayer's not going to put up too much of a fight. Through the hairpin, there they go, and Polasek up into 8th. Hendricks lost some ground to McFarland there. 5 minutes to go. It's a 2/10 gap. Through the corkscrew, Hendricks really sent it in there. top four only separated by a second. Any one of them, you know, Lynn and McKenzie are there in case McFarlane and Hendricks start to fight. This track is so demanding. There's so many back and forth, long sweeping corners, uphill, downhill. You're constantly managing the car. McKenzie looking for a move on Lynn. Lynn has learned from defending the lead and employs those tactics here, keeping McKenzie behind him for at least the moment. And now he'll go defensive into turn one. McKenzie looks to the right. He'll get the nose in on entry, but he can't keep it there on exit. Lynn stays ahead. Looking back to Kurt Smith and the Slug. This is the battle for 18th. This is, I think, the closest battle outside of that top group. The Slug giving Smith a little flash there. Up front. Into the hairpin. McKenzie looking for a move on Lynn. And every time Lynn goes defensive, they lose track of the leaders a little more. And I think now it's down to just Hendricks and McFarlane for the lead of this race. And Lynn and McKenzie for the podium, unless Fabi can get back up in there with them battling. And this group incredibly close together now. Luzon has slipped back behind Polasek and Mayer. I do not think that was the case before. Look at how close these guys are. 3 minutes to go. You will see 2 laps to go this time by at Barber. And coming through the penultimate corner, Hendricks just kind of holding the middle of the track to try and get a good run through there. Now McKenzie. Oh, McKenzie's gone and sent it into the last corner. He's a bit further alongside than McFarlane was, but it's not enough, and now Fabi is closing in. John Luzon hits pit lane. Oh, his race is over just at the very end. He's not going to get that top 10. McKenzie going a bit wide here. Fabi looking to stick the nose in, but he can't. Up ahead, they come down to the hairpin, and this is McFarlane's best chance yet. He's got to send it now. Hendricks defending the inside. He goes a bit deep on the brakes. McFarlane doesn't go very deep on the brakes at all. He gets a good run out of the corner, but I think that may have been a missed opportunity there. He's going to try and get the run down to the corkscrew, get the nose in, but he thinks better of it and backs out. You've got to send it, Dan. You've got to send it. You've got to put the car in there. If gap car. 2 minutes to go at Barber, and Hendricks still in the lead. Lynn still in third. David Thomas and Mark Darnell battling for position here. Darnell goes ahead of Thomas. To Zepka. Battling for 9th and 10th. Hendricks still under immense pressure. This will be McFarlane's final chance. Here we go. They're getting the white flag this time by. Gonzalo Fabi is on the back of that group back there now. Keep an eye out for that. McFarlane tried to move into the final corner again, so he will not have any kind of run down to turn one. He wasn't able to force Hendricks off his line enough to do anything. So now he's not going to be close enough to do anything into turn two. He's going to be a little far away for someone looking to make a move into the hairpin. Hendricks has got a really good gap here. This is exactly what he needed, a huge gap out of turn two. McFarlane had a really bad exit. 3/10 Hendricks put on him. And into the hairpin now. This is Hendricks' race to lose. He's just got to hit his marks. McFarlane's not close enough to force him off his line anymore. In the battle for third, there are 6 cars on my screen. Lynn going to the right side of the track, but I don't think McKenzie's going to be looking for an overtake here. Oh, he got into the grass there. It looked like a big wiggle from McKenzie. Hendricks still holds his lead. Just under a half second. If McFarlane's going to do something, he has to force Hendricks onto a defensive line into the penultimate corner and then make the last corner work. He's got to make the last corner work. McKenzie and Lynn side by side here into the final sector. He's going to force Lynn on the inside, and McKenzie goes around for that final podium spot. And in the penultimate corner, it will be Micah Hendricks through the final corner. He sees victory lane for the first time in ATC 13. The 473 takes the checkered flag. Hendricks wins at Barber. McFarland second, McKenzie third, Lynn just takes fourth over Fabi, and then fifth is Shink, sixth Polasek, Evan Clavijo across the line to win the Delta class back-to-back at Barber, in 11th place, and a big win. Guado Ridgelet had to, I think, serve a slowdown, or something happened to Ridgelet at the end of the race. It doesn't look like he went down pit road, but Clavijo takes home the win. Just a few more cars coming across the line now, and we are all done, all set here at Barber Motorsport Park. The first race, a little slow. The second race, non-stop from start to finish. Absolutely exhausting to watch, and I'm sure exhausting to race. For Dan McFarland, he places P2 in this one. Not a bad showing from him. McKenzie, because he finished far enough ahead of Polasek, he will slip back into the championship lead, but only just. So they are still essentially tied at the top of the board. Before we show you that, though, let's take a look at the final standings from today's race. First race of the day, Heat 1. Michael Polasek wins by 5.8 seconds over Logan McKenzie. Then you have Fabi, Mayer, Shink, McFarland, Hendricks 2, all the way down to Delta winner Evan Clavijo in P9. Qualified up there, stayed up there, excellent drive from him. Lazon, Lynn, Zepka, Alrijla, Thomas, Darnell, DeJay, McDonald, Bauer, Akers, and Smith round out the top 20. Further down, the rest of the results from Heat 1. You actually see, these are all 36 cars right here. You see Nate Kerr, he ended up 23rd overall. Not bad. He managed to get, he managed to staunch the bleeding and pick up points where he needed them. In the feature race, it was Micah Hendricks just eking out a win over Dan McFarland with Logan McKenzie on the podium in third. And then you go Lynn, Shink, Polasek in sixth, Mayer 2, Zepka, and then Clavijo finishes 10th, a 9th, a 10th. Can't complain about that as a Delta driver. Darnell, Thomas, McDonald, Smith, the Slug, Lazon, Chang, Mitchell, DeJay, and Fabi round out the top 20. What happened to Fabi? He had a penalty. He had a post-race penalty, and he got demoted down to 20th. So that promoted Shink to 5th and Polasek to 6th. That helps him a little bit in the points picture. But that is it for your second race. Nate Kerr came home 25th in that one, so again, decent points for him. But that will do it from here at Barber Motorsports Park. We will show you your updated championship standings shortly. Just 2 rounds to go. The Nürburgring and then Bathurst. We will see you there. Stay tuned for all the action here at the Alpha Touring Challenge. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.